Happy to be joined by Jaden Schwartz of the St. Louis Blues as well. I'm Jameson Coyle. What's this like for you? Your very first Stanley Cup Final Media Day before we get you first, before you get thrown to the Wolves out there, the podiums, and asked all kinds of crazy questions. What's this whole process been like for you, Jaden?
Yeah, it's new for me, so it's a little bit different, but obviously it's exciting, and everyone's pumped up to get going. And Larry Robinson, who's won a lot of cups, kind of gave us some advice and a little bit of tips what might go on. So we're prepared for it. Just this is, I think it's about an hour long, so it's easy for us, and then we get ready to go.
Yeah, we were just speaking about that. Larry's won a few cups over his life. So the one thing you all dream about playing in the Stanley Cup Finals, and here you are. But there's that one stat that we keep seeing that just blows my mind, and maybe do you have to pinch yourself at some point? Don't pinch yourself yet. You're one goal behind Brett Hull. Brett Hull for the most goals in playoff history for the St. Louis Blues. I mean, that's one of the most prolific scores our game has ever seen. What are you feeling right now on the ice?
I don't know. I just take it one game at a time, and just excited for this opportunity. I don't really think about the goals, but to be in the same sentence as Brett Hull, a guy who I grew up watching and one of the best goal scorers of all time. It's just pretty cool and surreal to be in this moment, and just can't wait to get going.
I'm going to ask you a question on that, a follow-up, because I asked him at World Cup of Hockey a few years ago. I said, Hully, where do you shoot? Like, when you look at the net, when you look at the goalie, where are you shooting? He goes, I can put it where I want it, but I usually just hit the spot. Now, what about you? You're on this hot streak.
That easy, yeah?
I know it's that easy, right? But from you, take us inside your shooter's eye. Are you looking at openings? Do you have pet spots that you like to shoot at, or is it just maybe a combination of the two?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. It kind of depends on each situation, but I think Holly scored a few more nicer goals than me. Most of my goals are around the net, especially in this playoffs, and rebounds or tip-ins, just trying to find that open area. So when I am shooting, sometimes you just have a split second, and it kind of depends on where the goalie's from. And when you are scoring, the net seems a little bit bigger, and when you aren't, for some reason, it seems like the goalie's a little bit bigger.
Well, it's 93-67 for you right now because you got 12 goals so far in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We've talked ad nauseum about this team and the up and down ride it's been this season. So many expectations coming into the year, slow start, dead last in the NHL back on January 3rd, and here you are representing the West in the Stanley Cup Final. I've asked these guys to pinpoint what turned it around for the St. Louis Blues. I'll ask somebody on the Blues right now. What turned it around for you guys?
Yeah, I think through every season you got ups and downs as the year goes on, but this one was definitely a little bit different considering where we were, and where we are now. And I think a part of it was we had a lot of new faces. We had a lot of, sometimes chemistry takes a second to click, and for us it took us a little bit. But even when we were going through that rough stretch, we knew we had a good team. We just couldn't get that team game going early enough like we wanted, and the coaching change obviously sparked us. And even early in the year, we'd beat really good teams, but then we'd lose a few in a row. We just couldn't put a winning streak together. And then I think it was that 12 or 13 game winning streak that really jump-started us and got us that belief. And we just realized how we had to play as a team and play together.
Who are the guys on the St. Louis Blues team that joke around, keep the room light, because that's so important right now? Is in the hotels, if you're joking before, joke now. Who are the guys on this team that keep everybody on a even keel?
Well, the good thing, we got a lot of guys who like to joke around and have fun, and keeps us loose for sure. The new faces we brought in were just a great fit for us. They're great for our locker room, awesome guys, and guys like Steen who've been around for a long time. Bertuzzo, they like to keep it loose, and but those are guys who like no one to dial in and be focused as well. But I think all these guys would tell you we got a really close group, which is why we're here today.
You mentioned something a little while ago. You talked about scoring a lot more from close in. That seems like it's an adjustment you've made here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We know you got skills, you can dangle, you can make your plays, but now you're getting in and around the net within 5 to 7 feet. Is that an adjustment you consciously made, or did it just kind of naturally happen?
I think it's just something I knew I had to get back to. I wasn't doing it enough earlier in the year, and I've done it before in the past. And Paul Stastny is a guy who I played with, and he's a guy who scores in tight, and he always talked to me about that. And he gave me some tips as earlier in the year when I was struggling, and that's just where I find I'm most effective, and where I score the most goals. So I had to get back to doing that.
I want to know what it's going to be like for us going back to St. Louis Game 3. We've teed it up enough. First Stanley Cup Final appearance in 49 years. Nobody up here, was even born the last time the Blues were in the Cup Final. What's that city? What's the vibe been like between the Western Conference Final and you guys traveling out here to Boston for Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final? What's that city ready to rock and roll for?
They're excited. They're pumped up. They've been waiting a long time for this, and so have we. So it's tough to put into words, but you'll see the rink there and all the fans, and we're really excited for this opportunity to be able to play there, and it's a great hockey city, and you know, they're always pulling for us, and they're a big reason the home ice is why we're so successul there.
All right. Well, I appreciate a few minutes of your time. We're being told we got to let you go. You got to go feast with the Wolves out there. So head to the podium, and we'll hear from you throughout the Stanley Cup Final. But appreciate your time, and good luck the rest of the way.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, Jaden Schwartz of the St. Louis Blues.